welcome to We Never Met, the podcast where I have an interesting stranger on every single week. Today I have
Steph Davies.
And Steph, what would most people probably know you for?
Probably from owning the Waxwing.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old is the Waxwing?
7 years old.
7 years old?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Does it feel like it's been that long?
No, everything's a flash.
Yeah. We should tell everyone what the Waxwing is first if you don't know.
Yeah. So the Waxwing is like a retail gallery gift shop. And it represents all handmade work by local artists, national artists as well. But everything's handmade in the U.S.
Yeah. So when did you come up with that idea?
It's sort of just unfolded very organically. I am a maker myself.
Yeah.
And so I'm not from Milwaukee. I'm from Kansas City. And I went to school in Chicago.
Okay.
And there I had this huge community of maker and musician friends. And it was just like, there's always a show going on or a house party with art on the walls. When I moved here, like I just didn't know how to get into that scene. It was kind of, when you're not from here, you didn't go to school here, it was more difficult. And so I just worked odd jobs and like slowly found some people. And then I just wanted to create a space to kind of create that community, I guess. So eventually I found this really small hole in the wall in Shorewood where the rent was affordable. Yeah. And my plan was, well, I'll work here as my studio space. Yeah. And then I'll sell work in the front of me and my friends and we'll see what happens. And when I opened, I had like 65 other artists in there and we were so busy, I never got to make art. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So it was really unexpected. It was supposed to be like a studio with a bonus that I sold some things.
Right. Yeah.
But instead it became like a shop and not a studio at all.
So what brought you up here from Chicago?
So I met my husband playing music in Chicago. We used to play at this open mic and he's from Waukesha. And so we lived there for a couple of years and then we packed everything up into storage and we spent 2 months on the road playing shows. We played like 40 shows in 2 months, coast to coast.
What kind of music was it?
Like folky songwriter,
That's
open mic.
That's so right in my alley.
Okay, cool.
I love that stuff. Yeah.
You never know how people are going to respond. You're like,
really?
Nothing too hip.
Yeah.
So we did that for a couple months and thought we'd find like this cool place on the road that we wanted to settle into. And I mean, we found cool places, but nothing felt like home.
Right.
And he was from Waukesha. His parents had a condo up here that no one was staying in. So it was supposed to be this like temporary, we figure things out.
Sure.
And it's just so affordable to live here that
it is.
Well, and when you're doing like anything artistic, it's like, okay, we can pay our rent and we can travel and we can do these crazy business ventures.
Right.
So,
or we can live in a place where we can't do anything and just pay rent.
Yeah. And just work 5 jobs. Right. So it worked out.
Yeah. So the Waxwing, that has moved locations now and it's in a way bigger space. Yeah. On North Avenue. So when did you become too big for the space?
That was also just kind of, I don't really plan anything. Like I've never had a business plan in my life and
it's worked out really well.
Things just accidentally kind of fall into place. But so our lease was actually up in Shorewood because the guy who owned the place wanted to expand his bar next door. Oh. He basically took me out to coffee one day and was like, I can make X more amount of dollars if you don't exist. And I was like, so cool. Yeah. So I kind of just thought, okay, well, I did this for a few years. What's next? And thought that was it. I had no ambitions to go find some big spot. Yeah. And since my husband is a musician, we actually decided we were going to take 2 road trips. We were going to go to Brooklyn and we were going to go to Nashville and check out the scenes there. Because I was like, well, I've already done this shop thing. I can do it anywhere. You can play music at these, maybe have more luck in these places. Yeah. So we were actually in Brooklyn in Park Slope looking at like real estate offices, kind of pricing out spots. And I got a phone call from these developers here in Milwaukee who had been in my shop. Oh. And we got kind of some press when we were closing down. Like people weren't happy about it. So they were like, we have all these retail spaces. We'd love to help you find a space. And honestly, my experience as a woman business owner in the Midwest is not always super positive. Like it's a lot of like, hey, I can really do this, I promise, sort of proving yourself. And like a lot of guys being like, yeah, right.
Okay, I hear
So I was really surprised that this like mail company was reaching out to me and I was just like, this seems too good to be true. Right. So when we came back in town, I saw this storefront that we have now on the corner of North and Oakland. And it was just like this huge, beautiful raw space. And I was like, I want it. Yeah. And they were like, well, this is like 2 storefronts and it's like this much. And I was like, I know, but I want it.
How far can we bring this down?
No plan. Yeah. So I had some savings from like doing the shop and we just did it.
Yeah.
If we found out we were pregnant with our second kid in the middle of like laying floorboards, and I was like, oh, we have no backup plan. Like we're kind of gambling all of our money on this build out and like fingers crossed. And literally the first night we opened, there was a line around the block. Wow. And I didn't know these people. It wasn't like the first spot where it was like, people I was like, and I went out and like hugged each of them. They're like, who are you? And I was like, I own this space. Who are you? Why are you here? So it was just really cool and magical, and it's worked out. Yeah. Cause that was my question. Like, was the intent of the original, like when you moved spaces, is that still what it is now, or has it changed? Like your initial intention? I mean, it's constantly evolving, and I think it has to, or you're done. Do you know what I mean? Like if, you know, what originally was supposed to be the studio space that happened to sell art is now more of a shop. Sure. And we try to do workshops and bring artists in and do trunk shows and like stay involved with the maker community on like a really organic and grassroots level. That's like, I know everyone personally, like I've met these people face to face. But it definitely is way more commercial and sort of commerce based than like I ever envisioned. Which is great. I mean, it means I can pay my rent, so that's great. But yeah, it's kind of had this life of its own that I couldn't have planned for. Yeah, because was it weird for you to go from a space where it was like it was more artistic based to now where it's like more retail, more commercial? Like, was there like a learning curve associated with it? Yeah, there was. I mean, the biggest thing I learned was in our old space, it was all local makers. Yeah. And when we got to the new space, we were just selling things so quickly that they couldn't keep up with it. Right. You know, there wasn't really enough. Like bleeding. Yeah, they're like, trying to keep up. Well, I'm trying to stock you. Yeah. So I started going to New York twice a year because there was a trade show where they had a whole handmade section. So I was like, oh, cool. I can meet like artists from all over. So I started meeting artists that way. And that's when we kind of grew to that national scene where it's not all... And there was definitely some kickback from that. Like I had some weird like Yelp reviews where people were like, they were so much better when it was all Wisconsin. And I'm like, I mean, like that, there has to be change. And it's a cool way for me to introduce artists to our community that like you wouldn't know about. Yeah. And also it's been cool to see the artists in my shop grow, and now they're in shops all over the country too, and like doing it full time. So it works both ways. And like, I think sometimes change is just weird for people, and yeah, it's always going to be. You can't please everyone. Yeah, exactly. If you why even try? I don't know. Yeah, if you do, you're probably doing it wrong. You know. Yeah. You're probably not. It's probably really boring if you're like vanilla pudding. Like I don't know. I don't even think everyone likes that. Doesn't know. I don't know. It seems like what's like a safe food that everyone likes? Cheerios. I don't know. It's okay. Something that everyone thinks is just okay. Yeah, exactly. Like no big opinions. Right. Yeah. So has that been an interesting thing though? Because I feel like I saw. Recently with, cause you are pregnant, if people can see, you have your third kid, and you're recently going through the terrible insurance. Oh God. Yeah. Stuff you saw that has to go with, no insurance. Yeah, exactly. Literally. But like the outpouring support that you get from people. Totally. Like, isn't that you know what's funny thing? Is I'm what you call like an extroverted introvert. So like I can be social and like go to like concerts and stuff. Do you get really tired afterwards? Exactly. I'm exhausted, and then I need to like just like sleep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a lot of conversation. Today's been a busy day. Yeah. And so it's really weird to, and especially in a town like Milwaukee, it's like the small big city. So to be kind of a public figure where people recognize you from like the shop, and I don't always recognize them or whatever the case may be, or they know your business, or just a random stranger. It's really overwhelming in like the best, coolest way possible. But I mean, the community has been really supportive since day one. Like it's mind blowing. Yeah. So. Was that kind of a accidental thing? Do you think like just by the nature of what you're doing that attracts certain people or certain type of people? When I started, like there were a couple other little shops doing sort of similar things as far as working on consignment, but they had like very specific focuses, like in fashion or, there wasn't anything where it was really like these finer arts. Like I was doing a lot of heavy illustration work and like pottery when I first opened, because I didn't see that anywhere. And that's always a risk when you're just like, I want to do this thing that I'm really passionate about. Maybe someone else will like it. Yeah. So it was cool to see that other people really wanted that too. Yeah. And showed up for it. And that's kind of continued to be the case. Like I think because we live in a time where we're all sort of detached and like behind screens and there's like these distances between us, that to be able to go into a shop and everything's really tactile and like you're touching things that other people like put their hands on. You know, it's not mass produced. I don't know. There's something to that seems to really draw people in and connect people and start cool conversations or inspire people to make their own stuff.
Right. Yeah. Cause you were one of the first shops like that in Milwaukee.
And it's like a whole movement now, which is crazy. Right. I mean, everywhere. Yeah.
Like,
I did not start the movement at all, but like, you did. Part of it.
I will tell you did. But how did that idea come about? Did you see these shops other places or did you just think, hey, this would be really neat?
So I always thought I would have like a coffee house where it was like a music venue too.
I thought that,
and like
I would like
gallery
that too.
walls.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Cause that's what my husband and I were doing. That's where we were playing. Yeah. I mean, but that's like, I don't know how people do like restaurants and food. That's like a whole other.
I don't either. Yeah. It seems tough.
Yeah. And the space you need for that is just
all the
commercial kitchens, all of that stuff. So I was just working odd jobs. This was like a, one of those big ideas you never thought would happen is like owning your own space. And on my 29th birthday, I happened to be working this really terrible job where like it was owned by this like curmudgeony old man who like watched us on cameras in his kitchen and would like call us and be like, why are you all talking? And he'd be like,
whoa,
it was soul sucking.
That is weird.
Yeah. And so like on my birthday, I was like, this is doing nothing for my life.
Did you say this to the camera?
I should have.
Hello.
I said this to like my general manager. I was like, I don't even need to ever put it on a resume. Like I can erase this whole section of my life and like nothing will change.
Yeah.
So I was like, I think I'm done. And like, I don't have a plan at all, but I'm done.
Yeah.
And then she was like, give me a second. And she went and called her fiance and she was like, I'm done too. And then the other assistant manager was like, yeah, me too. We all just like handed our keys to these people who had never like opened the doors before. And we're like, bye.
Yeah.
And I just called my mom, who's like the most supportive person on the planet. And I was like, I just need to make art or like be creative before I'm 30. Like, I just need to try it. I'm like, I don't know. I might be calling you for like grocery money, but I need to try it. She was like, do it. And so I started doing like gallery shows and like little things, art markets and stuff. But there was this little boutique in Shorewood and it was called the Hummingbird Art Boutique.
Does it exist anymore?
No. Okay. So it was owned by this, lesbian couple, Leslie and Leslie, which could be confusing when you worked for them.
Yeah, that is confusing.
But they were awesome and they let me put some of my art and jewelry in there.
Oh.
And then like on the weekends I would fill in for like, cash under the table to like make everything work out. And after a year, they actually split up and they didn't want to do it anymore.
Leslie? Oh, the Leslies are gone.
I know. And they didn't want to do it anymore. And so I was like, well, what's rent here? Like I could do something like this. And they featured probably about like 40 makers. And it was kind of their own vision. Like it definitely was different from what I ended up doing. But I was like, I could come and work here every day and then sell my art in the storefront. And like, I could talk to other people. And so it just kind of turned into this thing. And I did sell my work at Sparrow Collective, which has been around for like 10 years in Bayview. And so I even approached them and I was like, you guys do a lot of like fashion and like jewelry. And like my whole thing is like, I want to do like pottery. I want to do illustrated art. I want to do like paintings. Yeah. And so, there was no weird competition or like anything from the go because I'm totally not into that.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was just such a success from day one. Actually, my mom came up to help me open.
Yeah.
And we'd had like a soft openings. We'd had a couple customers over the last like week or something. And it was opening night. And I remember it was like 15 minutes before it was supposed to open and it was like an empty store. And I was like, I just hope like someone comes.
Yeah, at least one.
And within half an hour, you couldn't even move in the space. And there was that many people like outside.
Did you guys do a lot of marketing or something?
Just
randomly.
This is 7 years ago. So
like Facebook wasn't even that crazy.
Yeah. Maybe we did a Facebook event, but
if they existed at that point, I don't know.
I don't know what we did. I feel like it was pretty minimal, but people showed up and it was cool. So I don't know. Sometimes you just have to put things out there. Like maybe I'll do this and maybe it'll work.
Yeah. Cause you do a lot of different art projects. So do you have an art background? Like were you very artistic as a kid?
Yeah.
Like drawing?
I was like a really arty, nerdy kid.
Really?
Yeah. Like there's like home videos of me and we're like at a fun park and like I'm in a stroller, like coloring, getting pissed that the wind is like blowing my coloring pages. I'm like, stop it. And like my brother's like playing like a normal kid in the background. And I'm just like,
So what was the first thing? Because you're a very good artist and illustrator. Like,
oh, thanks.
I've like you do stuff on wood, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. But what was the first like piece? Do you remember drawing something? You're like, wow, this is actually good. Because none of mine were.
Oh,
and I remember that.
I don't know if I had an awareness of being like good. There's a couple things I remember. There used to be this older woman, and this is kind of, I'll be honest, like my dream version of me when I'm like in my 60s.
Yeah.
Mrs. Poff. I don't know if you still exist, but you were cool. She would have like craft camp at her house.
Oh.
Sounds kind of creepy now. I have no idea how my mom knew her.
Hindsight.
But like I was in like preschool and we would go for like an afternoon and you'd make like a craft, like a mosaic.
When was this in like the
80s?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Like a mosaic thing for your mom in her kitchen or something. Huh. And I always thought that was like, like, this woman is cool. I mean, now it sounds like she just needed some weird, extra money. It's a little weird, but Mrs. Pop was cool in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I remember like being really into that stuff. And then I would do weird things like do illustrated newspapers about my family, like, and make them all like read them. I don't know if they even like
illustrated
them.
newspapers, like a full newspaper?
Yeah, like a little like newsletter of what was going on.
Into your own family? Did you circulate it to your cousins and stuff?
No, just like immediate household.
This was my
like
mom's
obvious
doing.
news. Everyone knew it, but there's
Mom
like
baked
illustrated.
A pie today. It was really good.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I don't know, weird crafty things. But I thought I'd do. Like I went through phases where I wanted to be a cartoonist, and then I worked at a comic book store in college and wanted to be like a comic book artist and went to all the conventions. Do
you think you have a like specific style, or do you think it kind of evolved?
I think I do now.
Yeah.
I think I do now. And that's come with just like finding what feels most natural.
Sure.
I think you go through this whole phase with whatever you're passionate about where you're trying to like force yourself into the image of what you think you're supposed to be.
Right.
You know, like, oh, I should paint abstractly because like that's what's in museums, or I should, whatever is cool. But I mean, as you become like a grown up and you have to have like jobs that pay for necessities of life, you start to like, I think, do your passion in a way that's like almost a meditation for you, or like, you know,
like an escape from what you're doing.
Yeah. And if it's not that, if you're forcing it, it's work and it doesn't feel good anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So I think through that, I've kind of found, I like illustrating really fine lined things that I kind of get lost in, and it doesn't mean everyone's always like buying them up, but sometimes it works.
And you do them on, as we said, like pieces of wood now. Why that? Why'd you choose wood?
I mean, I used to do like drawings on paper framed, and I don't know, like it's so tricky. I mean, you have to pick a specific frame that everyone's gonna love, and da 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 da.
Yeah.
And something about wood makes it feel more like an object to me.
Sure.
Like I don't know, there's something just more substantial about.
Right.
And I don't know, I used to do a lot of printmaking in college too. So I would like carve into the wood and stuff. So it's kind of combining those two crafts, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. Cause you can just give like a slab of wood to someone with an illustration on it, and they can put that up somewhere. Yeah. If you give them a piece of paper, they got to frame it and like figure out what they're going to do with it. I mean, and
then you have to like keep it nice. And
I
mean, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. So just would make sense.
Yeah.
But you also do jewelry making.
I do.
So you just do everything.
I get bored easily.
Yeah. You have like 8 different things. I feel like you could fill a lot of your store with stuff that you do.
Well, and that was the point originally. Yeah. You know, it's funny. Like I actually have employees who will post pictures of my work because I'm so good at selling you other people's stuff. Like I always forget to be like, oh, and then I made this. Yeah. I don't know. It just feels, it's kind of weird to be like
pushing your own,
promoting your own stuff.
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
It's probably like a really Midwestern of us to think that. Like, I feel like if you're on the coast, you're like, what do you mean?
What do you
like
mean?
You just
Buy
do
6
that.
of these.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Midwest, you're like, well, she does cool stuff too. You know, you have that politeness too. So
it always feels like someone's gonna like call you out or something. They're gonna be like, well, you made this, so that's why you're selling it to me.
Exactly.
It's like, no, I actually think it's good. Oh, I can't say that though.
Like if I'm at the shop now and like people are buying me jewelry, like employees will be like, she made that. And I'm like,
don't tell them.
Yeah, I feel so weird. I'm like, you can put it back if you want to. I don't know.
You can put it back. I will make you buy it. It's okay. Exactly. Which is, that is definitely a Midwestern thing. It's like you have to be humble and not overly, promote yourself for any reason.
Or
which is weird
at all. Like you have to learn how to like put yourself out there in a confident way
without selling anything to anyone. Yeah. It's like a really weird contradiction. You have to put yourself out there and do stuff, but you also don't be overly crazy about it, guys.
Don't be a jerk.
Don't push anything you shouldn't. Right. So it's called Dear Darlington, right?
Yeah.
Where did that come from, the name, first of all?
So there's actually a hotel in Chicago called Hotel Darlington.
Okay.
And I don't know, this is like emo college stuff, but like I remember walking by it a lot, like in my college years, and just thinking, like, it was like an older hotel. Obviously, I'd been there for a while, maybe since like the 20s or something. And just this idea of like back when people wrote letters, like addressing them to Hotel Darlington, like it's just had this like romantic quality to it. And so when I was coming up with names, which is also really weird and hard, like when you're naming your business,
for sure.
It's like, I went through like I wanted it to be, I didn't want it to be like too sweet or like crafty or like my name.
Yeah.
So somehow I came back to that, like writing letters and just addressing it to Dear Darlington, which is weird because there's a Darlington, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And I'm not from here, so I did not know that. But like the first few craft shows I did, people would be like, "Oh, you're from Darlington?" And I'd be like, "That's a place? No, I'm not.
Not from there. Not at all."
So it's become a funny thing.
Yeah. So these are the projects that have lasted like years.
Yeah.
Has there been stuff that you've started and been like, not doing that anymore?
Like branded type things?
Or just anything, like different sort of art projects or anything that you're just kind of threw by the wayside? Because I
did like baby clothes for a while.
Really? Like made them?
No. I like took onesies and like cut out things and like embroidered them and like I did make like little bandanas and stuff. I think I did this a lot when I had my first daughter, like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
It just didn't ever took off. Yeah. Because it's interesting to me that like certain things you're really obviously passionate about and that like clicked with you, and like jewelry making was like something that extended further than just like, I'll do it once and then I'm fine. Yeah.
Well, jewelry making became a way because it can be really hard to sell like illustrative work. It's just like not everyone's into it.
Right.
But with jewelry making, I started doing etching onto the metal.
Oh.
And then like introducing it that way, like a wearable piece of. So I do like, I'll draw like birds and like etch them and cut them out into the brass. And then like from there, it just stemmed into using other pieces and kind of making it a whole collection.
Yeah.
And obviously it's like a more sellable craft.
Sure.
So when you're trying to do things like support children and all this adult stuff, like you have to kind of think in that vein. But yeah, I do really like it. And it's something where I'm not always in the mood to draw either. And like you hit those blocks, so I can kind of shift energy. And I think in the past, when I first met my husband, it used to be music. Like I would be blocked with drawing and I turned to writing. And I don't know. I mean, life is so much more romantic and interesting when you're in your 20s. Like I'm a mom now. I own businesses. Like I don't have a lot of cool songwriting material.
When does that break? Because I'm 28 right now. So
I would say you have a few years.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still like inspired by things, but I feel like I've either said it all or
things are much more real though too. Yeah.
There's not these romantic ideologies because I'm like living the life.
Right.
Like
so you can't go to like Tuscany for three months and just be there.
That's not even a possibility anymore.
Yeah,
exactly. We've crossed the stage of like, what crazy adventure will I have next? And it's like, well, when is my daughter out of school?
Right. I gotta pick her up soon.
Exactly. So,
well, that's a thing I wanted to ask you is like, how has having kids changed like the way you look at your business and like what you do?
I mean, when I was pregnant with my first, it's funny. I always just had this idea, and I think because my mom's a lot like this, that I think some people think you have to adjust to life with kids and like suddenly you have to get a minivan and like, these checklists. You have to like, life and you can't do these things anymore because you're having kids. And I just never felt that way. I was always just like, well, I'm going to still do what I'm doing. And like the kids, that's what their mom does. So they're going to like be in that life.
Yeah.
And not like selfishly, but just like,
just keep being who you are.
I am who I am. Yeah, exactly. And my husband kind of went through the phase where I remember he was like freaking out and he was like, should I just quit playing music and like get a factory job? And I was like, do you want a factory job? Like,
I need to apply at Office Depot.
I was like, do you want to come home and like then try to play music at night and do that whole thing? And he was like, well, no. And I was like, then I guess no. Like, why would you do that? And so it's cool. Like our kids are really good travelers. I mean, they come with me twice a year to New York to the trade shows. My daughter wants to live in New York. She thinks like the Disney store in Times Square is like Disneyland. She wants to work there. Yeah. And we go to like my husband's shows. And that's just kind of what they know, and they're very creative and musical and weird.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely I definitely go to sleep earlier, whereas my husband used to go to shows and stay out half the night and sleep till 11. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
And then, there's definitely some planning. Our biggest adjustment so far has been when my daughter started kindergarten and we realized we were just continuing to travel, and we got a note home that was your daughter's already missed 10 days. And we were oh, is that a thing?
Yeah, it's almost illegal, isn't it?
Yeah. They're she can only miss one more. And we were oh. And so I had to go in the office and be what happens then? And they're well, she's in kindergarten, so it doesn't really matter yet. Much. But eventually it'll affect her record. And I was oh. So we had to kind of figure out this is why people only travel in the summer and on spring break.
Right,
that's a thing that we now have to think about. So that's been the biggest. And Matt took some time, my husband took some time off of traveling and touring. Yeah. Because he felt weird being away.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because we just found our way back into where he's on the road most weekends. And now we're having number 3. Oh, yeah. So that's you get into a groove and then you're let's shake it up.
Here we go.
Make it more complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what, does he play in a band?
Yeah. So he's the head singer of the Thrift Tones. They've been around for probably a decade playing around Milwaukee. And then he actually has a CD release on Friday.
Oh, cool.
For his own solo. So he does solo stuff. He also plays keyboards in another band. He kind of is a man of many. He's like me. He gets bored.
Man of many talents. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So when you started, what was his reaction to all this stuff? Was he just on board and just thought it was really cool?
He's way more laid back than I am.
So it would be you that would be freaking out about stuff and he'd be
no, not in that way, but just as far as he's getting better. But I'll tell an anecdote and he'll probably hate me for it, but I don't care. Because we've been together so long, he just has to deal with it.
At this point, I mean, I'm having a third baby, so I gotta get over the anecdote.
Right?
Yeah.
So when we were first dating, that movie, I'm Not There, the Bob Dylan.
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they did this movie where it's parts of Bob Dylan's life and they used all these different actors to portray these different parts of his persona and his musical career. And it was coming out. Heath Ledger was still alive and he was in it. Okay. And my husband was all mopey one day and we were just dating at this time and I was what's up? And he was I just don't get it. I look more like a young Bob Dylan. I sound like him. And I was did you audition for this role? And he was well, no. And I was what? And he's but there's YouTube videos of me online, singing Bob Dylan songs. And I was wait, so you just thought they would come find you?
Don't you understand how good I am at being Bob Dylan?
Yeah. And he was well, yeah. And I was just that is not how the world works. And so he's way more it'll come to me when it comes to me. And I'm let's make this happen. So I think when I did the shop, he was into it, but I think he was really thinking this will be where Steph goes and makes art. And maybe she sells some art. Right?
Yeah.
And then when it took off and we kept growing, he's been so supportive. I mean, there's been times where he's been can I work for you? And I'm that would be weird. Let's not do that. But yeah, I think, and I'd like to think, I don't know how much influence I have, but I feel it's inspired him to kind of be a little more all in his music. Yeah. Because he's all in on his own. I have all these other supporting players of I'm supporting other artists and I can kind of not have to push my stuff.
Sure.
So I know how much more challenging it is when you're front and center, hey, here's my record.
By yourself, you're the only one doing it.
Yeah. But he especially with this newest CD he just made, it's been really cool. He's been on all these radio shows and getting all these cool reviews and really pushing it. So hopefully it inspired him because my thing worked out. But yeah, he's way more
just will come, and we'll just see what happens.
They'll just come knock on your door and be you want to play Bob Dylan in this Hollywood movie?
Yeah, let's go. Actually, $1 million contract? Yes, please.
Yes,
I'll
please.
take it.
Based on the YouTube video you found of me?
Yeah.
Great.
I knew it. When I recorded, I knew it. But no, so with the Waxwing, how did you come up with the aesthetic that you wanted?
Sure.
Did that just kind of naturally happen?
It's definitely evolved. If you look at old Waxwing pictures, there's a lot more weird crafty art that I would not have anymore.
Sure.
I also had to really learn how to edit, and that was really challenging because I think as an as an artist myself, I had this whole inner turmoil of who am I to say no to anyone?
Yeah, I have the same problem.
And I had a customer who told me, because I was kind of lamenting to her one day, because people would come in and show me their art, and I have a really bad poker face. So I'd always just say yes to everything, because I'd be like, oh, I don't want to say no to you.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, we're trusting you to edit. Like, if you don't edit your products, like, there's no curation here. Right, and like, we're not going to trust. And I was like, oh, so it's like my job. Like, I have to do this, you know? Yeah. And I kind of took it on that way. And so I had to change things a little bit. So like, you can only apply online. And that way, like, I can look at it when I'm in the zone to look at art. Sure. Because, you know, if you're just blindsiding me, like, look at this painting I made, like my face is going to go, ah, you know what I mean? Like, oh no, did they read that reaction? Yeah. And that doesn't always rub people the right way. Like, they want to come in with their portfolio and have like a one-on-one meeting with you. And it's like, it's just not realistic. And it takes a lot of energy to do that. And And
it's also like, what are you going to get out of that if I say no? You know, it's not like you're going to change your art. Like, is this going to change how you do it?
I went to the School of the Arts in Chicago, where there's a lot of focus on like constructive critique. And I have found that if you don't understand that school of thought, you take it very personally, even if it's not, you know, and I totally get it, because you're sharing your art with someone. It's a very vulnerable place to be. Yeah. I just don't want to like be that person to anyone. So like,
someone's crying with a piece of art in their hand in the store.
Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, fine. We'll hang it on the wall in the bathroom.
I'll take 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have found like, when I can really sit and like process things and be really thoughtful about my response, and maybe even write the response like 3 different ways, so I'm not hurting anyone's feelings or whatever, that's the best way. But yeah, like the look of the shop has kind of evolved, and now it's really where I want it to be. And again, I can't say that I have like a title for that or a description of what that is. But
it's just changed.
Yeah, it's changed. And I think the trickiest part, which I now comes a little more naturally, was learning also to fill the shop with stuff that maybe I wouldn't always be appealing to me, but like,
but it's appealing to somebody.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's tricky to find that balance.
To do. Yeah. I don't like this, but it seems good, I think. I don't know.
And then there would be some things where I'd just be like, yes. And then I'd be like, why did I say yes to that? And then you'd sell like 12 of them. I'd be like, why am I selling 12 of that? Yeah. Like, it's crazy.
Who's buying this?
Or I'll be really excited about something and be like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. And it just sits forever. And I'm like, why is no one buying that? Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is weird. Because do you find that some people are coming into your shop with like specific expectations of what they want or what they think will be in there? Or do you have like a lot of people that are regulars that are coming in pretty often?
We have a lot of regulars. Yeah. And then we have a lot of people just walking by who are curious. And I think they're pleasantly surprised to find things for kind of everyone. Mm-hmm. You know, we try to really please as many different types of people, types of wallets, like, you know, everything that we can. But we definitely have a lot of strong regulars. I mean, I think the biggest expectation that's hard and people are evolving and like figuring out is there's this idea that if you're a small business, you're supposed to just kind of like give everything over to the customer and do whatever you can to keep them. And like, people don't understand that you actually have less resources to do that kind of thing.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
like, we can't take your return from 3 years ago. It financially doesn't make any sense for us. Like, you know, I get that you think we're small, so we should, to make you happy, to keep you.
Right. It should be the opposite, I feel like.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. It's always surprising to me how little understanding there is of like how little you have to work with.
Like, do that to Kohl's.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
They can take that. They're fine.
Exactly. Or the best is if you'll get an online order and like 3 hours later, they're like, where's my tracking? And I'm like, it's a Sunday night. Like, I'm not at the post office. Yeah. I don't know.
It's somewhere.
Yeah. We're not Amazon now. Like, it's not coming to your door in 2 hours. So there's always that little curveball with some people who just, I think especially because we're in a bigger spot now, we're riding that line where it's maybe not totally evident that we're like a smaller business.
Because you've been around for so long too.
Yeah. So that's always an interesting thing to navigate, but I think for the most part, people get it and they're excited about what we're doing. So they're supportive and understanding. And
well, has it been cool to see like Jeff, who has his store, because he pretty much was like, you were like the reason that he started, you know, doing Beard MK, which is his store and stuff.
He's awesome. So and in fact, Ursa, do you know the shop Ursa in Bayview? Yeah. She used to work for me too.
Oh, wow.
But both her and Jeff came to the table fully with their ideas, you know, like they wanted to do, like Jeff's idea, I think probably evolved more as we talked about it. Emily always had a really strong idea of like that shop that she has now. And it's such a beautiful interpretation of her vision. It was cool to see that unfold. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I worked enough weird retail jobs that like, I kind of tell everyone in the interview, like, this is not going to be your career. Like, I know you're not going to be here forever. Like, I hope to pay you a living wage and I hope you stay as long as you can. But like, what is your interest and like, how can we like develop that here? Because otherwise you're wasting your time and you're not going to be a good employee.
Yeah.
And so with Jeff and I met randomly at, do you know the artist Jeremy Novi? He does like the big koi fish and street art.
Yeah.
So he had done some like work around the shop. He actually painted in our bathroom and like we have koi fish around the outside.
I didn't know that was his name. I'll have to remember that one.
Yeah. He's cool. And he'll be in town soon for like a workshop. He comes in and out of town. So.
Does he go to other places and do those koi things? 'Cause I was in Portland and I saw him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He goes all over. Yeah. I think he's living in California right now.
Oh, okay.
He was living in New Orleans for a while. He's from like around here. So we had met and he was in town for his birthday and he was like, I just want to get all these like creative types together who don't really know each other for dinner. Yeah. And I used to do that kind of weird stuff in college. I'd be like, hey, invite someone you've always wanted to invite from art class to like a dinner and let's all hang out. Yeah. I don't know. It's just weird. So I was like really into it. I was like, cool. I love this. And we had just had our second kid. And so it was actually like my husband and I was like our first like night out in a while. Sure. It felt like a big deal. And I sat next to Jeff. And we had this whole like little like, hi, I'm Jeff. Hi, I'm Steph, like rhyming moment. And then I was like, he was like, what do you do? And I'm always really like, oh, I own a shop. Like, I don't know. He was like, oh, which one? And I told him, he was like, oh my God, I'm going to get on Facebook right now and tell everyone I'm sitting next to you. And I was like, I have baby vomit in my hair. Like, I'm really not that cool.
Could we take a picture actually?
Yeah, I was like, and we just like goofed around the whole dinner and he happened to mention, he was like, if you need any help. And it was coming on kind of like a holiday season. I was like, actually. Mm-hmm. So he came to work for me and it just turned out he's like if we had one brain split in two, like I would be the female version of the brain and he would be the male version of the brain. And like, we just have this really weird, like people always think we're married, which drives our partners nuts. But when we go out as four, I think everyone thinks they're partners too. So it works. And yeah, he kind of told me like this idea of beard evolved while he was working there. And what ended up happening actually is last summer when I got the opportunity to take on MilwaukeeHome. Yeah. He had inheritance because his dad passed away a few years ago. So he was like ready to partner with me. And he was like, hey, like I'll put up this much for you, like help you do this. And I was like, why aren't you just doing that for yourself? Yeah. And it like really, I think that was the moment where I had any influence that he gives me a lot of credit, but like, that's the only moment I can think of where I was like, do your thing. Yeah. And he was like, oh, you're right. And I was like, yeah, I mean, if you're going to give like me that much money to do what I'm doing, like you should just do it for yourself and be doing your own thing. And it's really cool to see it open now and such a strong vision. And he's really cool. He's such a nice guy too. Oh, he's my kid's godparents, actually, him and his partner. Yeah. He is so tall though. I remember he's like a lumberjack. And I'm like, I know, he's a giant. I'm a little dweeb compared to you. Well, my husband's like, I mean, small compared to him and like a sensitive, pretty boy musician type. So when we're all out, everyone just assumes that like Jeff's like the manly man of the group, and which could not be farther from the truth. But it's funny, we've gone places and they're like, yeah, your husband. And we're like, no, that's not we're actually wondering which of you would date us right now. So like, it's not a thing. Yeah, he was, I remember it was almost to the fact where he had to like kind of go like that through my door frame. Yeah. He's a big guy. Yeah. But he was so awesome. And speaking of MilwaukeeHome, how did that whole situation unfold? Because like that was a huge thing, you know? No, it's been a crazy year. So that was another like thing where, so Waxwing was like in its 6th year last year. It was pretty steady. I had this great crew. Jeff was still managing. And basically I pay myself like once a year. So after the holiday season, like I pay off all the store debt and like give all the crew like their bonuses. And then like I'll write myself a nice check for like the whole year. Really? Yeah. Well, because the rest of the year I just pay myself as an artist. Like I sell my art in the shop. I was gonna say, and then I invest in the shop. Business. Yeah. You really gotta. Well, so I mean, and I plan, you know, like we'll put some in our retirement fund and savings and basically just kind of figure out how much we need for rent and basics and we have it. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Because otherwise it just fluctuates so much throughout the year. It's like hard to judge. I don't know. I'm sure there's smarter ways to do it. I did not go to business school. If it works, it works. Yeah. So that year we actually planned a trip to London to take our kids. And so we were in London. I had placed an order with MilwaukeeHome because we worked with them almost since day one in the shop. And she actually reached out to me and she was like, I'm actually going to sell this business, or I want to sell it. Yeah. And I kind of would like to talk to you about it. And at the time it just happened that we had just bought this house. Like we did not plan a trip to London and buying a house in the same, like we're not that extravagant. It just happened. We were like, okay, we're doing this. And so I was like, I have no money. No one's giving me a loan anytime soon. Like I just jumped through hoops to get a mortgage.
Yeah.
Like, sounds great. Like, and we just kept talking about it. And, it was really important to her that it went to like a woman and like an entrepreneur in the community. And like, and, I think she felt confident in seeing what I'd done with Waxwing.
Sure.
So, we worked out to where I'm kind of paying as I go, like a portion of sales each month or whatever. And I was like, well, this business has been around for 7 years. It's not like a huge risk. Like there's all this potential. People love it. There's a huge following. It seemed really risk-free. So I decided to do it. And it's been a real huge learning curve. I mean, I've never made t-shirts or designed t-shirts. Yeah. It's really been an interesting change to just be focused on one visual product.
Yeah.
Like one brand.
Right.
So I definitely struggled with like coming to terms with how it could be mine because I didn't create it.
Right.
But recently we actually just launched a campaign that just launched. I was in my car, like posting it before I came in here, with Beard Milwaukee with Jeff's store.
Yeah.
To make MilwaukeeHome tees for Pride.
Okay. Yeah.
So those just got launched, and a percentage of those go to the Cream City Foundation, and which supports LGBTQ community. And then we just did these tees that I'm wearing right now. It's a heart on it for Courage Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And so I had all this struggle because Melissa, the old owner of Milwaukee, was really tied into like the sports community and just had this whole thing going with like kind of bigger influencers and like musicians and things that I just wasn't tied into. Sure. So I felt kind of like a foreigner.
Right.
But I've really found through these projects, like I'm really excited about working for nonprofits in the community and like bringing awareness to what they're doing and building designs around like their branding or their passion.
Yeah. And
like kind of building this community and like love and acceptance. And especially nowadays, just like supporting everyone. And,
right.
So now that these projects are kind of taking off, that's feeling like I found my place in it, and we'll see where it goes.
Because was it when you took over MilwaukeeHome, did you moved it to the national location?
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. We were in the 3rd ward, and it was like a cool spot, but
it's way back there in the 3rd ward.
Way back there, and it seems like in the 3rd ward, unless you're like on a certain part of Broadway, like no one knows you exist. And so I really had to hustle to get people there, and you'd have to be like, we're across from the Italian Community Center, that place you hang out at all the time. Yeah. And I was so used to like North Avenue where I don't even have to tell anyone where we're at, people just find us. So this opportunity came up on National, and Walker's Point is such a cool neighborhood. And that's been great for us. Like the community is so excited that we're there, and like we have foot traffic like crazy. Yeah. It's such an easier place to find. And it feels in making that shop, it felt like me also kind of taking it on a little bit.
Right. So. Yeah. Did it like make you nervous at all when you initially?
Of course. Yeah. Oh my God. It's
like, what do I do with these shirts now?
I mean, pretty much. Like, well, and also like Melissa was so like the face of the brand.
Right.
And I am way more like behind the scenes. Like I don't need to be the face of anything. So I was like, shoot, ever. And for a while, like there's probably maybe 3 negative comments ever, but I could quote them for you, like, course, verbatim. And especially when we announced we were moving to National Avenue, someone was like, further demise of the brand under new ownership. And I was like, what does this mean?
Because we're moving?
Yeah, I know. I mean, people are just weird. Yeah. But it definitely like obviously echoed in my brain.
Right.
And so there was this pressure to like
kind of
fulfill these big
exactly what she was doing instead of doing
and not screw it up by like doing. So I think I kind of rode this course for like 6 months where I was trying to follow this like protocol that I was basically making up.
Yeah.
And it felt really uncomfortable. I wasn't really happy. I was really like, what did I do? And then sooner or later I was just like, no one's paying attention anymore. So I'm going to like do some stuff that feels like my own. And it's felt better. And it's,
it's basically like working for someone who doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. It's like working for a mystical creature.
Yeah. And I would reach out to her. At first I'd be like, hey, what do you think of meeting this? And she'd be like, it's your brand now. And I'm like,
That's not what they're telling me though.
I know.
In the comments.
I need your approval. So it's felt good to like just let all that expectation go and
right.
And I mean, ultimately, who cares? Like if I fail miserably with a brand, like they're not going to put that on my gravestone in like 20 years. Like someone else, there'll be other news.
And I doubt you'll fail miserably. I think you're doing really well.
Okay, good. But it's intimidating and it's a big responsibility. And
right. With the Waxwing, when are you guys open every day of the week?
Every day.
Every single day. Mm-hmm. What hours usually?
So we're open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7, and then Sundays 11 to 5.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then when is the store in Walker's Point, the MilwaukeeHome store open? So
that store, we're closed on Mondays there because everything around there is closed Mondays. So I realized that pretty quickly that no one's there.
Yeah.
But we're open Tuesday through Friday, 11 to 6, Saturday, 10 to 5, and Sunday, 11 to 4.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. You can just know that off the dome.
And I often do post on Instagram and I'll put like, I'll be on the waxing page and say like the hours from MilwaukeeHome and have to go back and edit it. It's
when are we open today, guys? Can you tell me?
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'll have employees be like, you just posted the other store's hours. And I'm like, okay. People figure out.
They'll be here.
Yeah.
It's okay. Whatever. And do you guys have an online store for the Waxwing?
We do.
Okay.
I'm really bad at filling it because we sell stuff so fast in the shop that it's really hard to list it online.
Yeah.
But MilwaukeeHome definitely has an online store. And what's cool about that is a lot of it is set up print to order.
Okay.
Which means it takes a little longer to get there, but we can offer a lot more variety than what we just have on hand.
Right.
So, MilwaukeeHome's kind of the bigger online presence.
Yeah. So out of like your experience so far with all of these brands and stuff, do you have like a moment that you were like very proud of, like that you were most proud of, that sticks out to you? Like,
it's going to sound really weird, but so I grew up with a very like working class, like stay at home mom. Mm-hmm. Parents grew up on farms, like grew up in the suburb of Kansas City, Missouri. Yeah. So we never like, we would go camping with like our little pop-up trailer camper, you know, and like, and we'd like a campground like 2 hours away and like ride our bikes in the woods. And that was like our huge family vacation. And so I remember growing up and my mom always wanted to take us to Disney World. Like that was like the dream. We never made it. Like we never had money to go. And so a couple years ago, I got to take my mom with my kids to Disney World. And that felt like cool. Like, who knew? So I don't know, little things like that where I like sit back and realize like, okay, my family has a home. Like my kids are taken care of. We have food on the table. Like we don't live a like crazy life by any means, but when you're living a creative life, especially, and you're kind of choosing your own path and your husband's a musician, like you kind of are like, are we going to make it? Like, are we going to survive? And so when you're in survival mode and like things are feeling pretty good, that I think feels like an accomplishment. Like,
and it's crazy that most of the stuff just kind of happened.
It is really crazy. I know I feel so lame saying that, but I'm like, like people will ask, I'll have people email me and be like, can I take you out to coffee and like talk to you about my business plan? I'm like, well, you can, but
I would love coffee.
I don't know what to tell you.
But I mean, you still had to do all that stuff.
I mean, there's definitely learning it in the experience. But not a lot of planning.
Because it was that weird for you to go from a spot where you didn't have any employees or anything like that to be a business owner with people that are counting on you.
And that's been cool too. Because I think a lot of people, I'm in a couple like Facebook groups with other small shop owners from around the country, and a lot of them still work a lot at the shop. But to me, my goal was always like, I want to create stuff. Like I don't want to sell retail. Like, God bless you if you love retail, but I think it's kind of miserable. So I just wanted to support artists and myself, but I want to be making the stuff. And so as soon as I could hire employees, like it definitely meant I wasn't paying myself. But I found that I always look at investments in like what it gives you in life. And so for me, like, I don't take home a regular paycheck from either shop. But I'm with my kids like a lot. We hang out a lot. I'm in my studio. My husband and I share a studio in the factory building over kind of, and gosh, my pregnancy brain is terrible. But it's just west of Walker's Point. What is that neighborhood?
Oh, you're talking about...
I can see a mural with it clearly written out, but I can't make out the words.
Oh, I don't even know. Anyway. I thought you were talking about the building that Twisted Path is in.
No. Oh. But it's a cool spot, and I work there most days, and I just kind of do logistics for the shops. And to me, that's like a cool trade-off. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. My time is my own.
Yeah.
So, whereas I think I know other people who are still kind of there most of the time, so they can keep more of the money.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have really cool people who work for me, and they're really passionate. And
yeah. I mean, it's cool to live a life where you're doing things that you care about.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day.
Totally.
And not having to like sell your soul to make money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then ultimately, I don't ever want to own a place where people are selling their soul to me either. So hopefully I'm doing a good job of that.
I think so.
But yeah.
I don't think you would have made it this long if that was the case. But so what are the websites for all of your stuff?
So for the Waxwing, it's just www.thewaxwing.com. Mm-hmm. But I would follow us on Instagram at The Waxwing. It's much more interesting. Mm-hmm. And we're engaged in that every day. And then for Milwaukee Home, it's mkehome.com or at Milwaukee Home on Instagram. And then for my stuff, again, I would just look at the Instagram page, and it's at Dear Darlington. Mm-hmm. And I think if you go to either Waxwing or Dear Darlington, they might reference each other. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. It was
thanks for having me.
Yeah. Good luck with the baby.
Thank you.
Baby number 3.
Yeah.
Is it coming soon?
Coming soon.
coming soon.
Like 4 weeks.
To a community near you.
Who knows what he'll do? Yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations on all your success, and you do amazing stuff. So
thanks.
It was awesome to meet you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.